Welcome to the session on representations of data, box plots. The objectives for this session are to draw and interpret box plots. A 5-figure summary for a data set consists of the minimum, the lower quartile, the median, the upper quartile, and the maximum. A box plot identifies all these values and any outliers. So let's take a look at an example. We're going to look at exam marks. Suppose for a particular data set, the lowest value, which is not an outlier, is here, as indicated. And the lower quartile is here. We join that with a straight line to construct our box plot. The median is here, and we join those 2 points with a box as shown. And the upper quartile is here, and we join the median and the upper quartile with another box as shown. And the highest value, which is not an outlier, is here as indicated. And we join the upper quartile and the highest value, which is not an outlier, with a straight line. And finally, any possible outliers are also shown as indicated. Box plots also allow comparisons to be made between data sets. Let's take a look at another example. Suppose 3 students have the 5-figure summaries for their exam marks, as shown in this table. Present these as box and whiskers plots which allow comparisons to be made. Pause the video and have a go. Press play when you're ready to view the solutions. So here are the exam marks as box plots. Here are the exam marks for student 1 and for student 2 and for student 3. When comparing data sets, and in particular in exam questions, do mention the measure of location and the spread. Also, do consider other relevant factors in the context of the question. So, for example, if we are comparing the marks for student 2 and student 3, we could mention the range. Notice that it's slightly greater for student 3. The median is actually the same. However, the marks are generally lower for student 2. What's particularly useful about the box plots or comparing box plots is that you can see an overall picture of what's going on without going into the nitty-gritty of the 5-figure summary figures. So, for example, we can immediately see that for this particular example, all 3 students have the same median mark. We can also see that the ranges for all 3 students are approximately the same. However, we can also say something about how the box plots are skewed and where the marks are leaning towards. So, for example, in box plot 1 or for student 1, the marks seem more balanced in comparison to the other 2. It's not quite symmetric, but it's still more balanced than the other 2 students' marks. Whereas for student 2, as we mentioned earlier, the marks are leaning towards the lower end, and for student 3, the marks are leaning towards the higher end. Outliers can actually greatly affect the appearance of the box plot. Let's take a look at a real-life example, arms exporters. Here's the box plot for the top 40 arms exporters, with the trend indicator value in millions given on the y-axis. Notice that we have 3 outliers in this set. Suppose instead we take the top 10 arms exporters. This time, notice, we have only one extreme value. What happens if we remove the extreme value in this data set and reproduce the box plot for the next top 10 arms exporters? The box plot is now going to look something like the one you can see towards the bottom of your screen. Notice that outliers exist in both data sets, but they are different. Take a look at the y-axis and notice how much the scale has changed. And it has actually obviously changed because of the removal of the outlier. Furthermore, the mean has shifted towards the median. From this example, you should hopefully be able to appreciate how outliers affect not only the appearance of the box plot, but also the values on the y-axis and the values of the summary statistics, and in particular of the mean. This brings us to the end of this session. If you have understood its contents, you should be able to draw and interpret box plots. Thank you very much for listening. To understand this topic in greater depth, do attempt the exercises in your textbook related to this topic.